I will begin with a script for remotely conducted and or hybrid meetings. This is a Zoom meeting allowing the public to participate. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link can be found in the description of Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. Chairman will now confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. You have on the screen Mr. Fransudo.
Hi.
And Tara.
Ginger's going to call in eventually, hopefully.
And tonight here in the meeting room, Mr. Brace.
Aye. Present.
Mr. Bossy.
Present.
Mr. Anderson.
Present.
Do we have any anticipated speakers? Who else is up there? Peter, I can't see.
It's just me and Tara and Dave.
Okay. All right. Good evening. This open meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference and or here in our meeting room. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. I, the chair, Andrew Lowell, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, roughly 5:30. We have an approval of tonight's agenda. A motion, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. Anderson to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
Aye.
Mr. Fransudo.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Draft minutes of June 6th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? And are there any revisions to be suggested? Or I will ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Brace, seconded by Mr. Anderson to approve the draft minutes of June 6th. All in favor, Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. Fransudo?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have any Marine Department representation?
We do not.
Natural Resources, Tara, please.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So I'll give you a quick update on what's going on at the hatchery. It's August 1st, so we're busy. So we've been working with the Boys and Girls Club every Monday. We have 2 weeks left. The past couple of weeks, we've been teaching them how to snorkel in the community pool. They all got their own snorkel gear. Last Thursday we did that, and then on Monday we went out to quays and took them so they could practice snorkeling in the field, and that was a lot of fun to see the kids get excited about everything. We wrapped up working with the Great Harbor Yacht Club, their Youth Foundation program. That was a week long, and that was a lot of fun too. right now we are getting ready to release 20 million larvae tomorrow morning in Matticat Harbor. So this year we've been focusing on the new moon and the full moon for releases. So there's a giant moon this evening, so it should be pretty exciting to go look at if you're interested in that sort of thing. Our spat bag numbers have been crazy. We've been collecting so much spat anywhere from Third Bend all the way to Up Harbor and Nantucket Harbor. The numbers that we're getting per line, I think last year for the whole season, we got 120,000. And one line from the head of the harbor last week, there were like 30,000 in 5 bags. The eelgrass all along the south shore of from Toppers all the way to Abrams Point is laying down completely flat. There's like 20 spat on every single blade of eelgrass. It's crazy. So the sizes of the bay scallops are like 10 to 20 millimeters. And so we've been going and checking on stuff, measuring it. It's definitely going to have to be moved as soon as it's big enough to fit in, a seed dredge or something in October, because it is so close to shore and the eelgrass that it's on is thin. But I personally have never seen anything like it. So it's pretty exciting. It's also caused me a lot of anxiety trying to figure out how we're going to deal with it. But I think that in terms of production from the hatchery and natural spawning that's going on, has been incredible this season. The numbers in Matticat and Little Neck are just starting to pick up now. So Matticat's always like a little bit behind Nantucket Harbor. But I think that it's going to be a really good season in terms of like what we've been seeing that would contribute for this scallop season. There's a lot of scallops in the harbor still. We've been measuring a lot, and especially like Abrams and Fulling Mill, like it's going to be a great place for recreational. I think you can get a bushel in 15 minutes if you really wanted to. So that's been interesting, but also the scallops that we're measuring, there's a lot that have gone into their 3rd year. There's a lot with like the 3rd year ring on it that obviously are going to die at some point, but I've never really seen that many scallops with 3 rings on them before. And I think it's just, there were scallops left in the harbor this year and not everything was caught. And so those scallops are, still hanging in there a little bit. And that's something that I haven't really seen before. So that's interesting too. And yeah, so we've been working with the Land Council on some eelgrass projects and their grad students. Fifth Bend, I'm sure they'll give you a report, but Fifth Bend site has not been going very well. It started off really good at the beginning of the season, and then I guess a week ago it was like pretty decimated. And so right now they're trying to figure out if it was green crabs or spider crabs or thermal stress or a combination of both, but it was kind of like it looked great, and then a week later it was gone. So that's what was described to me. And so they're planting out some more eelgrass and putting out some cameras to kind of see if they can get an idea of maybe what happened. So I don't really know. That's still to try to figure out. And then our oysters that we're doing with the Boys and Girls Club, we have about 200 spat on shell bags that we're going to deploy on the Nantucket Conservation Reef the 3rd week of August, right before the club ends. And I think those boys and girls in that particular oyster program have been in our hatchery raising their own oysters. And so I think when it's all said and done, we'll probably be adding around 300,000 oysters to that reef this season, just through that program that we did with them. So that's pretty cool and exciting. And it's been great working with those kids. And the last thing I had, Jeff wanted me to remind you that there's a harbor plan survey to fill out. If you don't the link, I can send it to you. And yeah, so it's just a survey of things that you'd like to see in the harbor plan update. And I think that's all I have for right now. I haven't really had a chance to get outside of the hatchery or outside of the shellfish world into, you know, the other office to kind of hear updates on what's going on their end. But I will see if I can get that ready for the next meeting.
Thank you, Tara. Any chance the wind had something to do with the fifth bend issue with the eelgrass? I know there were some heavy winds this past week. There's a lot of eelgrass on the beach in Walwyn, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit. So I heard part of it, but I'm not sure. I think it might be a combination.
You're cutting out a bit, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with my connection, but.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Thank you, Tara. Any questions from the board for Tara?
I had a question. When you said the eelgrass is laying down flat, what does that mean?
Oh, the eelgrass?
Laying down flat. What did you mean by the eelgrass laying down flat?
Oh, so I meant that there are so many scallops attached to the eelgrass blades that it's laying down flat.
Okay.
I'm going to get some video because it's an incredible thing to see.
Do you have any theories as to why there's so much spat as compared to last year?
I mean, of course I have lots of theories, but we got to kind of work out the data on it. You know, the head of the harbor always collects a lot of spat regardless, but I think, I mean, we did a really substantial release in Second Bend, and everything that we've been collecting up harbor is like from Second Bend and beyond. There isn't a whole lot in the other bags. But I also think that there's a lot of scallops in the harbor, you know, after the fishing season. And so I think, you know, we've noticed that there's a pattern when the water temperature jumps 4 degrees, particularly like in July, it goes, you know, from a cooler 4 degrees to a warmer 4 degrees. That's been triggering for large spawning events. And so right now, what we're trying to do is assess the timing of our release with the timing of like the spat bags for the release and the spat bags for the natural recruitment, and try and work everything out together. You know, and we're just now looking at this full moon, new moon data too, and linking it to water quality and past releases that were around that time too. So we're just trying to zone everything in and kind of key it out and see what happened. I mean, I can't really say for sure that it was 100% the hatchery as much as I'd love to, but you know, we just got to see. I hope it's a good combination of both, because if that is natural spawning going on in there, it's been incredible.
And so, with the fishermen having difficult time selling their catch last winter because of various things going on with seafood stores, meant that not as many people were going, or not enough, and so stuff got left in the water. And I mean, at least that's what I heard from some of the fishermen. So that could be a factor contributing to what is left in the water. And then you guys, when you did your bottom surveys, your harbor surveys in the springtime, you saw a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing left in the water now, it's stuff that I felt like it should have been caught, you know, it should have, especially where it is, you know, it's in close to like Fulling Mill and Abrams and stuff. Like I could have gotten a bushel in 10 minutes by snorkeling. It's just loaded.
Do you have a concern about there being enough nutrients for them to survive?
Not right now. The water's so full of food and cloudy. I mean, stuff is just taking off and growing so fast. Like I don't I think there's plenty of food in July and August in Nantucket Harbor for sure,
Good.
especially
Good.
up harbor.
The harbor plan survey link you mentioned, is that from Kim Starbuck?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and that was sent out on July 17th. And it's still ongoing, we can still,
Yes,
okay. Board members, questions or comments for natural resources? Mr. Anderson.
Do you have any concerns about the water being as warm as it is with the scallops?
Yeah, I definitely am concerned about them making it through August, which is why we're going to be in the water, you know, every week, kind of assessing everything. You know, as shallow as they are, the water's warmer. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, to see how everything kind of makes it through these next 4 weeks.
That temperature's been going up steadily. I mean, not that it doesn't every year, but
Right. What was
Yeah,
it
I
last
mean,
year? We hit
they-
80.
Yeah, I mean, we do see 80, but not for a prolonged period of time. 78 seems to be kind of a peak that we normally hit now. But I think the key is for how long it stays at that high temperature to cause the stress. So we'll just have to, you know, kind of see how it goes. You know, this week's a lot cooler than it was last week, that's for sure.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? Thank you, Tara. Will you be sticking around for a bit?
I can for a little bit, but I got 2 kids on the loose, so we'll see how long that lasts.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Public comment on Marine and Natural Resources report. Anything else from the board? Old business, harbor watershed workshop agenda. That's us. Planned for September 9th. I liked some of the catchphrases from our last meeting with a quorum. Are you aware of runaway runoff? What's your fertilizer footprint? Your actions have an impact. I think these are great catchphrases, and I believe, you know, having a board set up with an enlarged map that Mr. Bossy found for us, and if we could possibly indicate some of the pipes, I don't know if we really need to, but the outfall pipes, but it's more about having that map in place and being able to stand there and explain to people in attendance, you know, how far back the impacts can come from, and hopefully we can open some eyes and make a difference. Mr. Franzuto created an agenda for the meeting, I believe, and we've all been sent a copy. It's clean and simple. I mean, we're basically working on one item here, and for the most part, it's about watershed and runoff, stormwater runoff. So,
Mr. Chairman,
I think, yes, Mr. Franzuto, please.
whatever maps, if you want some big maps in color printed, let me know what you want and I'll see if I can get Nathan Porter to print them. If you want that outfall map from the harbor plan, I'll see if he can reproduce that, or whatever maps you want to have for show and tell.
Okay.
I think that will be something to bring it to another level. If we can at least show where those outfalls are and connect some of the sewer stuff, because then the stormwater gets there some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one other thing, we're planning we're planning on having a couple laptops with a couple of us driving them, right, for the public?
That I'm not sure about. Peter, any thoughts? Or
I mean, I would think that
I thought, go ahead.
I would think that we would try and get the town to have laptops for us. You know, the one that's always there.
Well, I was just planning on bringing mine, and, you know, and I don't know, and they may, I don't know that they've got a box of laptops sitting around that they've
Well, there's
used
always
for the
Dave,
public.
sorry, there's always a laptop right there.
No, I know that one.
Right. So I have no problem bringing my own laptop. But
Yeah,
the laptop that's right there in the community room is connected to the screen.
Right, which is beautiful.
So if we get Jeff Carlson there, he can work that. And then if we have 2 or 3 others,
I think that's all we would need.
Any other, ideas or necessities that the board feels we need to have prepared?
Well, Dave's gonna have the big harbor map. I'll send them, yeah, do you know which one I'm talking about, the harbor one that's basically referenced in the buck slip? Or do you want me to send you the link to it?
But that would be great, because the one that I have, that would be great, because the one that I have, for some reason, I can't manipulate it.
Okay, well, I'll shoot you off the PDF from the website so you can, and we ought to get a big one of that made, I think, so we can point to it.
All right, maybe I can get them to print a couple of those.
Right, so if we do that and we do the app poll, I think that'd be huge. People will walk up and look at them.
No problem.
I don't think we need a whole lot. It's more about all of us being prepared to present to the public and speak to them individually during a question and answer, and be able to point at a big stationary map and have I think we'll all be well versed with explanations of what we're trying to achieve here, and the message we're trying to get across is pretty simple. So hopefully, my biggest thing is hoping there's an attendance and exposure for this.
Mr. Chairman, have we invited David Gray?
No, not that I know of. No, but that's a good idea.
Okay, when I talked to him in person, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Anyway, I mentioned it, and I'll stun him up and see if I can get a couple hours from him on September 9th.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Dave. How about the Civic League, Peter? Any news from Peter Morrison?
Well, the August President's Breakfast, I think, is this weekend. I haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
He knows that we wanted to speak there. I just haven't heard back from him. Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
Okay. Board members, anything else on our Harbor Watershed Workshop? Keep in mind, we'll talk a little later if we're going to have a second August meeting, and we still have our first September meeting will be before this. We better look at the calendar. I imagine it's the day after Labor Day.
It is the 5th, yeah.
We'll have to be sure to get that agenda done ahead of time. Usually very good about Mr. Grace. If there's nothing else, we'll move forward. Green crabs, if there's any discussion, just curious. We're keeping this on the agenda, not specifically to expect something from you, Mr. Anderson, but you know, there are actively traps being set and pulled in the harbor. I'm curious to know if there's any information on this. Tara, if you have your ears on, do you know, have any updates on how the green crab trapping has been coming along?
I do not have any updates on the green crab trapping.
Okay, board members, heard anything?
I did talk to RJ Turcott at that state of the harbor that we were at. And he said they were pulling a lot of them in, and Toscano must be doing okay because they're now selling their product, their composting product, advertising it in the Inky Mirror.
Yes.
And so they must be doing something right with the crabs to mix it in there.
Yeah.
We're using it for.
I painted one today for you.
I have forgotten about the discussion that they had at the harbor forum on the eelgrass, and they had said that, you know, in their pots they're, you know, bringing in 300 every time they pull them, and relative to what they're bringing in on the Cape, they seem to think that they were pretty minute amounts relative to other communities, but I also know that they don't have that many traps out, so
Right.
I think that there's probably a lot more.
So what they're catching is minute in comparison to other towns, and possibly minute in comparison to what the population in our harbor may be.
I mean, they didn't make a reference to the population of the harbor, but they made a reference to what we're potting versus what other towns get per pot. And other towns, I think the number was around 700 crabs a pot. But that's without, you know, obviously location and soak time and all that kind of stuff was not discussed. So I'm not really sure how comparable it is.
Okay. Thank you, Tara. Any more green crab discussion for tonight?
Yeah, today when I was transporting students for the field station, there's an undergrad, can't remember her name, that is interning or working at the field station this summer, and she said, she told me the green crabs have the ability to stop their molt, and that makes them stronger somehow. And I thought that was interesting.
Boy, I was hoping they can adapt to live on land if they get away out there at Toscana. Make their way back to the harbor from mid-island. That would be interesting. They seem like a tough breed, that's for sure. We're through with green crabs. We'll move on to Harbor Action Plan Committee. Jeff's recommendations, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, we had a pretty productive meeting. The one thing that I wanted to ask the board members, if they feel the need to be interviewed by the staff of Urban Harbors. They are conducting interviews and they're setting up lists of people to interview. And so I'm asking if any of you feel like you want to be interviewed specifically, individually, just let me know and I'll get you scheduled.
Thank you, Dave. That's nice to give a personal touch to it.
Yeah. If you want it, just let me know and I'll plug you into a interview schedule.
Okay, I'll take a spot.
Okay.
And
I'll let you know some dates.
Thank you, Mr. Franzuto. Board members. Obviously, there's still lots of time on this. Was there not also some information from the state required before?
They still have not gotten the notice to proceed, at least at the last meeting that they were talking about it. I don't think they've gotten the notice to proceed. And I think that's just a procedural issue, but I can't say for sure.
I reached out to them about that, and it is just procedural. So I was wondering what it was. I was just sure it's just procedure, it just has to get done. But it wasn't done as a couple of weeks ago.
Still, it keeps us from doing anything.
Right.
Anybody else? Discussion on the Harbor Action Plan Committee and recommendations from this board. Move forward to sediment transport study and dredge plan. Tara, I know this is on Jeff's desk, not yours. Have you heard anything moving forward? Do you know if the engineering firm has spent some time on island and done any surveying or anything interesting like that?
I think they have completed the surveys. I was not at the last meeting. It's been Jeff, Vince, and I kind of tag teaming everything. So I don't have anything other than I think that yes, they did complete the surveys because they asked if they could dock their boat on our dock. So I can get an update for you on that.
Thank you, Tara. Anybody else? Anything to say on the sediment transport study and dredge plan? I've heard from numerous people with concerns about shallow areas in the harbor. Maybe it would be a good idea to start identifying some of them. I spoke also with a mooring handler, Matt Anderson, and he's already actually mentioned a couple of areas that he felt were in need of dredging. I think he's more in the mooring field area with his thoughts, which is fine, of course. So I'll do my best to reach out for more information on that, and possibly from people who are concerned, and possibly get some suggestions that we can transfer. Next item, filling the empty seat on SHAB. The last I talked to Erica Mooney, they were going to make the appointment in the second round. That was several weeks ago. Mr. Brace, were you able to talk to her more recently than I?
Yes, well, I emailed her and she said that second round will be on the 16th of this month.
15th?
16th.
16th.
August 16th.
Okay. All right. And our next meeting is August 15th. So if we have a meeting August 15th, I believe the only person to submit for the seat was Jim Sherlin. He submitted late, therefore that is why he's ended up in the second round. Thankfully, we have a quorum tonight. We did miss a quorum at our previous meeting, but it'll certainly be nice to have a full board. And hopefully that board member will be Jim Sherlin, which will be very helpful to have an active fisherman on board. Any more discussion on the MTC? I'm going to move on to health of the harbors. Mr. Brace and myself and Mr. Anderson, that I'm aware of, attended State of the Harbor Forum. Any other board members that attended? Mr. Brace and I had a little discussion after the meeting, and both of us felt the same about the kind of tiptoeing of how fertilizer is spoken about. And I've actually in the past spoken with Emily about this, and she admitted she walks a fine line. The Land Council, of course, relies on donors, and we're all appreciative for those donors, but when it becomes obvious that a tiptoeing effect has to take place, not to possibly offend any of the donors, because some of them may be people who have green lawns close to the harbor. It was a little irritating for Peter and I in our short discussion after the forum. And so we thought we'd put this on the agenda tonight, not just to speak about that, but in general, if anybody wants to have any discussion on the latest State of the Harbor Forum. That discussion's open now. Mr.
I
Anderson.
mean, it was my takeaway from that the biggest problem in Nantucket Harbor is the fertilizer and the nutrients from that. Whereas Mattocket may be in worse shape because it's got septic issue potential as well as the fertilizers. So, I mean, the bigger body of water, we've got to figure out how they will address fertilizer. And I don't know how somebody can want this beautiful green lawn at the expense of the harbor.
Well, it's actually kind of raising a flag for me as for considering our watershed workshop, that maybe we shouldn't either on a screen or have a printout picture of one of those green lawns that comes down fairly close to the harbor. I can think of a couple at Fulling Mill. Certainly there are plenty more. Mr. Brace is on foot a lot on those North Shore beaches. But you know, there's we don't have any donors here at SHAB, and maybe it's time our voice became a little louder and make up for where they may need to be careful in speaking at the Land Council. And certainly fertilizer is part of watershed and stormwater runoff. So this can certainly be included in our discussion and our descriptions at the workshop. But beyond that, I believe that, you know, maybe we can somehow here at SHAB make up for what the Land Council is having reluctance with all due respect to the Land Council. Totally support. Group's been around for a long time. They've made some wonderful accomplishments here. So this is in no way, shape, or form any type of criticism. I understand the fine line that has to be walked there. But at the same time, if a voice can come out of somewhere and speak what's considered kind of the unspoken, and we've heard it a lot about fertilizer, but evidently not enough. Whether it's reaching out to landscapers more, homeowners. Hopefully we're going to be bending some ears with some homeowners coming up soon. Any other questions, comments, discussion on the State of the Harbor Forum?
I just want to say that we all know, everybody knows, it's the homeowners within the harbor watershed that are being danced around. And we have to, you know, I guess I should have had the presence of mind to stand up, but if the Land Council can't say it, and we understand why they can't say it, then someone has to get up and say, we have these issues in the harbor because of people in the harbor watershed using too much fertilizer. And
yes.
It's up to you guys who are doing this. And, you know, at the meeting, we had that researcher who told us what the problem was, and yet nobody really said what the problem was. And it's the property owners that have the green lawns, and it's, you know, it needs to be put to them. And then we're not going to lose any financial anything by saying it. It's our job to say it. You know, look them all in the eye and say, what's your fertilizer footprint? How much are you putting into the harbor? You know, Because it's not coming from some magical thing that we're gonna keep working on and maybe we'll find it. We know what it is.
No, yeah.
That person up there said that. What have we all got to lose of getting up and pointing the finger? And they can like it or not. You know, it's just, since we can't go onto someone's property and watch what the, you know, the landscape or the gardener is doing. Since we can't do that, we can certainly speak out. And, you know, the next harbor forum is an opportunity. I know that the land council's annual meeting is coming up, but I don't think that's the place to do that. But
That's tonight.
yeah, okay, it's tonight, so we don't have that opportunity. But the next harbor forum, the next opportunity we have, we should.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Please do.
I just want to say that all of those property owners along that south shore of the harbor are all going to have scallop seed wash up this entire winter because the eelgrass is so short and thin because of all the nutrients. So if they don't get moved, they're going to have so many scallops just dying on their shoreline.
And that's a thing that we should maybe pay attention to throughout the year until the next forum, of examples of, you know, the results of this. And
well,
speaking.
Mr. Chairman,
you've been chomping.
Yeah, to Tara's point, you know, that if that stuff ends up having to be moved, then there's going to be some press coverage of that and write-ups of that, you know, and Peter's exactly right. This isn't magic. You know, and when it gets the press coverage, I think that we need to step up and say, it's because of the fertilizer that is this problem. The nutrient loading in the harbor is the cause. And again, to agree with Peter, which sometimes I don't, but to agree with Peter, we got no dog in the fight. We're not going to lose funding because we speak out. I think it's our job to speak out. And so this might be an opportunity with this lotus seed, which I wasn't going to say anything, but this is third year scallops that have spawned, which is adding to the bulk of the scallops, which is a great thing. But here's an opportunity for us to make a statement. And it won't come out of the blue. It won't be like we wrote a op-ed piece just because we think that fertilizer is a problem. We can tie it into what Tara ends up having to do with moving this stuff and helping it survive.
I just want to clarify what Dave said. Yes, we all know it's the fertilizer because that researcher said it, but we already know that. The point is to get up there and say, if there are people in this room who own property within the watershed that are putting too much fertilizer, you know, if your lawn is exceedingly green, you're probably the problem.
Exactly.
I mean, and then you should, whoever gets up, hopefully it's a lot of us, we say, look, we've all been on the board for this long. We all know the facts. And if you came to this meeting thinking that there was going to be some new discovery of where it's really coming from, you're going to be disappointed because we know.
Good way to say it. Yeah.
Well, I was just frustrated, and I feel bad for Emily because I know that she would probably want to get up and say those things, but they have donors and they rely on them and they need them, not only for protecting the harbor, for protecting all species of life on the island. So she's in a hard spot.
Yes. And
we support her.
Yes.
I mean, they did publish a brochure, which I think I've shared before, and it's branded with the town, the Pond Coalition and the Land Council, and they sit there and they spell out the two main problems, and then they show you the pictures on the back. So it's almost like we could use their own material to help, you know, re-educate how we can deal with this, how we can approach. Can we mail stuff out to people? They probably won't care. I mean, they probably want their green lawn more than they.
And they probably don't attend this meeting.
Probably, I would think.
I hate to say that, but they don't.
It'll be, yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of catchphrases and I like that. And forming it in a question also catches the attention span longer by saying what you just said, Mr. Brace. Do you have an exceedingly green lawn? If that was the way you put it. It's a good catchphrase. I like that. And, you know, that should be all of our homework over the next several weeks or more before our workshop to you know, jot down those catchphrases that are attention grabbing. It's the best we can do. And you know, maybe green lawn photo, you know, like I said, near the waterfront. And Tara's absolutely right with you know, these seed scholars are going to end up right in front of some of these lawns if they don't have the eelgrass to cling to for their safety.
And I have a couple photos out at Barrett Landing where somebody fertilized their lawn, but they had an overspray of the fertilizer sitting right next to the catch basin near their driveway, and it's halfway across the road going down to that landing. So all that water is either going right down the pavement or into the catch basin and out there. So it's like how they apply it even makes a difference, I think.
Oh, yeah, and that's a map we haven't even talked about. You know, the runoff map, runoff directly ending up in Hither Creek and Connecticut Harbor.
I have those pictures saved. So
okay. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anybody else on the state of the harbor? Moving into new business, Coastal Resilience Advisory Board. Do we have an update, Mr. Brace?
Yes. So our longstanding chairperson, Mary Longacre, has resigned from the committee. She did 4 years, and she got us together, and she led the creation of the plan, and now she's the chairperson of the planning commission, and that takes a lot of her time, and she needs to step away. So at our last meeting, we elected new officers, and I am now the chairman of CRAC. Right back into it. Sarah Boyce got the vice chair, and then a guy named Doug Rose as secretary. So I'll be meeting with Leo twice a month to plan the agenda. And since I'm the direct representative for Shab has things that you want on the agenda, then tell me. Since it's all up to me, basically. It's gonna be a ride. And so what we talked about at the last meeting is something that the select board asked us to work on. And that is something called coastal resilience districts, either island-wide or sub-districts in different places around the island. But how to create these districts for the purpose of identifying the key areas that are going to be affected the most and soon, and then later, and as well as it's a word nobody likes, but coming up with betterments for these areas, and assessing the taxpayers to help pay for the resilience efforts. And we've just sort of started talking about it at the last meeting, and now we're sort of tasked with thinking about it between the last meeting and the next one coming up on August 8th. And we have till September 1st to get it together and tell the select board what we think it should be, because then we will be reporting to them on that date. We've talked about, possibly having an island-wide district for all types of things that, since there are things island-wide that everybody uses, like the airport and sewer beds and ferries, and the roads, then there can potentially be some sort of betterment that everyone would pay, but if you're in a certain area that was affected by a thing that only impacts your neighborhood, then you might pay another betterment. It hasn't happened yet, so anybody who's watching this, don't freak out. It's just an idea and we're working on it. So the main topic we talked about. So we'll be talking about it in more detail at August 8th meeting, and there'll be an attorney who has worked with coastal resilience districts in other states. Should be there to answer our questions and help us refine what we're going to tell us.
Thank you, Peter. Board members, questions or comments?
Congratulations.
Yes. Well, I'd just like to say to the board here, whereas Peter has become chairman at the Coastal Resilience Advisory Board, obviously he has more on his plate, and wherever we can, help him out here at Chev, let's be respectful and do so. I think you have all, Mr. Franzuto, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Bossi, you've all done great homework and brought things into us here, and also try to be helpful with hooking up when we have our computer issues. Thank you, Mr. Bossi. And so let's be respectful of Peter and not put any extra burdens on him, and try to help him with the burdens that he has, at least here at Chev.
You can all come with me after the meeting behind the firehouse and we wash all the oyster buckets with me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
All right. There's nothing else with Coastal Resilience Advisory Board. The aquaculture lease program review and update. We left this on here, figuring there's probably nothing new to add. If there were, we might hear something from Tara. Tara, anything new on aquaculture lease program?
We were just going to review it, but that we're going to wait till the fall.
Yeah, that was the fall.
I think we agreed we're gonna wait till the fall project.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it seems like the current leases are doing well. A lot of oysters being harvested out there. It seems like they're very busy. So that's a good thing. And the shells you're collecting, Mr. Brace, getting a lot of them.
Well, there's some oystermen and make a lot of money, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
good.
I regularly collect from crew. I regularly collect 3 or 4 32-gallon barrels, and from the sandbar, it's always at least 4 barrels, 3 times a week. 3 times a week for crew. So there's people eating a lot of oysters.
Yeah.
You all have to do is go out and look at that pile. It's huge. Then the other restaurants, I'm trying to think of, the other restaurants have either 10-gallon buckets or 5-gallon buckets, and some just barely fill a bucket, and some fill their 3 or 4, and but it's you're lucky enough to own an oyster business out here, you're probably doing all right.
Well, let's hope they are. They invest a lot of time and energy into that. A lot of equipment as well. Anybody else? Second August meeting. Anybody feel it necessary we hold the second August meeting? Otherwise, our next meeting will be September 5th. The reason we have this on the agenda was concerns for being prepared for our September workshop. Thoughts from the board, please. We could just have a workshop and have just this on the agenda.
I was going to suggest that. I was going to say just the workshop just for that, so we can.
Some of you can't make it, you can join by Zoom.
Yeah.
If we
I think
have
it'd be a good idea.
nothing new or more to add, it could be a 10 or 15 minute meeting.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we do that.
I would second that motion.
Okay, motion's made by Mr. Bossi, seconded by Mr. Anderson, to hold an August meeting specifically pertaining to our September workshop. That is September 9th, correct?
Yes,
And what was the time on that?
9:30.
September 9th at 9:30. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, I will roll call this. Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well. So we will have a second August meeting. August 15th, 5 p.m. with one agenda item.
Okay.
Public questions or comments? Anything, any other items the board feels we should have for our next meeting? You can't think of something now and you think of something later, let Peter or I know. We'll be making the agenda either the Thursday or Friday prior to the meeting. And it will be at least the Thursday prior to the September 5th meeting, with that being a long weekend, that we will be doing the agenda for that meeting. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bossy makes a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Mr. Anderson seconds it. All in favor, Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Tara.
Charles, we're done.